Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show. I'm the big beefy boy, Shaz Beef, and today I'm joined by my fellow old buck in Morro. How are you, good sir?
Fantastic.
Haven't seen you since the Backlash watch along. Were you in bed since then?
I just stopped watching wrestling since then.
Wow, it was a serious slog, wasn't it?
It was a slog, but it was also bad.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, 100%.
Would you?
Yeah, 100%.
Stay up, maybe a few brewskis or something.
Whatever, yeah. Sometimes I prefer not drinking.
Yeah, because when I used to drink, I used to just forget everything, and then watch it again. It'd be like,
See,
way!
Because then you end up drinking, or you want to start at 7 o'clock drinking. The curfew doesn't start till midnight. You're 5 hours in.
Yeah, but that's what I used to love. I used to love the slug of it.
But Shane,
like AEW going on till 6 a.m. in the morning.
You're just
shit faced.
Yeah. No, that's all well and good. But I'm nearly 38 years of age.
Yeah.
Can't do that shit anymore.
It's tough. Can't even barely stay out for a pay per view.
We had a little family celebration there last Saturday night, and I just spent most of the day Sunday sleeping, and it wasn't wild.
Was it just 48 points?
It's just all I had was about 40 pints.
Yeah, that's it.
Pints, and then
Since then we've done the New Generation podcast.
Enjoyed that. Yeah.
Did you? I felt like we barely touched upon it.
I know for sure. This is a deep topic. It's a deep topic. I really enjoyed it. I actually was gutted I missed that one because I felt I would have enjoyed speaking about that.
Well, we're definitely going to have to do a part 2 on it, I reckon.
Is my mic on? It is, yeah. See it now, yeah.
Yeah.
It's lighting up.
All right. I reckon we're going to have to do a part 2 on it anyway.
I'll hopefully be around for that one. But I enjoyed it, yeah.
Yeah, so basically, if you haven't seen the New Generation podcast, it's looking at an era that many people might controversially say is one of the worst eras of wrestling. But a lot of us of our vintage would have grown up with that being, our era.
One of our real first deep exposure to wrestling.
And it got me thinking about, controversial opinions in general. And we've talked about controversy in wrestling and how it can be utilized. But let's talk about controversial takes that us fans might have in wrestling.
Hot takes.
Do you want to go to the listeners' reactions first of all?
Yeah.
Okay, so a few people have been in touch. We put it up on the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show Instagram, saying that we're recording today, and if you have any, hot takes that you'd like to put to us, well, we'll definitely put it to each other. This one comes in from our good friend Alan. And he has said, CM Punk's 2 years back in WWE, 2 years in AEW. Which run was better? AEW, based on feuds and stories. That has taken away all the backstage bullshit.
I actually agree with that one. I don't think that's a hot take. I think AEW's run is better.
His feud with MJF was great.
Yeah, his feud with Eddie Kingston was great. That initial feeling, I don't think it's so hard as well to replicate that initial pop that he got in Chicago on that Rampage show that was built around him.
And it was so exciting, but after probably the injury, it's just kind of it's so stale and stagnant.
It was also a bit grim.
Yeah, his feud with Moxley was
he called the liars in over the finish of the match and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was weird, but it started off hot. I will agree.
Yeah, the first, I would say, 9 months were tremendous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
also, he had that pretty cool Collision run when Collision started up first.
I wasn't a fan of Collision. I didn't like the muddiness of
the fake split roster.
Soft roster split and stuff. I was just commit to it.
His match, his very last match with Samoa Joe at All In was excellent.
It was great. Got to experience it live.
Yeah.
But I think his WWE run has been better.
I think,
you look at the feud with Drew McIntyre, albeit he was out injured as well.
He had injury problems both times, but he's a 40-something-year-old man. This isn't a criticism of Punk. It's so many wrestlers now wrestle long into their 40s. They're going to have periods where they're out injured. You look across the spectrum. AJ Styles has been injured recently. Again, a guy in his 40s. Edge had a long injury. He's into his 50s. It's just, it's time. You're going to get injured. And he was injured in both companies. I don't think you can use that as a negative against the guy who's doing very, very good work still at that age.
Yeah, but I liked his run with Rollins and obviously with McIntyre.
As you know, I wasn't the biggest fan of his run with Rollins. I was down on the early parts of the McIntyre feud, but they totally won me over by the end. Yeah. To the point where it was towards the end of 2024, I was it was for me a top 2-3 feud of the year, which, it's
It's sensational when you consider how long it went on and how inactive Punk
was for most of it. Yeah, they managed to do some really great stuff to keep that alive. The way I would look at it is, I think his AEW run had higher highs and lower lows.
I don't know. I would like say if he won. This is fantasy booking actually, so we'll just deal with it as it is. I still think like having the initial comeback in WWE being so shocking, like nobody really saw it actually coming. And then
Were you shocked?
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
I
was hopeful, but
I just assumed that no, I didn't think it was going to happen on the night that it did happen.
Yeah. It was in Chicago, though, right?
Yeah. That's Survivor Series. I initially thought weeks out, I was like, he's definitely showing up at Survivor Series. And then as it started getting closer and closer, and no news of a deal had broken out, because there was none until the very last
That's
minute.
what I'm saying. Like Punk to AEW, while it was great seeing him, it was anticipation building. Like we knew it was happening.
It was
with WWE. I thought it was such a shock. So that initial impact,
I knew it was happening. I just didn't think it was happening when it did.
Yeah, but that initial impact when it happened at Survivor Series, then he gets injured. He's carrying a feud with Drew while out injured, doing that great thing in Glasgow, a Clash at the Castle. WrestleMania, costing him the title. Some great promos. Has a tremendous Hell in a Cell match. Whatever you say
one
about
of the best Hell in a Cell matches
about the other
of recent years.
Yeah, whatever you say about the other two, and then goes into a great feud, in my opinion, with Seth Rollins, where both of them are blending this reality of using AEW kind of heat, and me genuinely going, do they actually not like each other? And same with McIntyre.
There's probably two ways this argument hinges. One is on your enjoyment of the Rollins stuff, which we differ on. So therefore, I don't enjoy his WWE run as much as you do, because I'm not as high on the Rollins stuff. Whereas if I love the Rollins stuff, because we both love the Drew stuff, we'll say, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think if the Rollins stuff was as juicy for me as the Drew stuff had been, it'd be much harder to make an argument that his AEW run is better.
Yeah, I think he's he also looks healthier.
He looked very healthy at the start of AEW.
Yeah,
and then he just started looking like shit.
It just kind of started disintegrating. So I would think that the WWE run is not a lot better, but it was more. But obviously, that's my fandom with WWE coming into play
true.
too.
For me, it's just like the MJF Punk feud in let's say my adult wrestling viewing, I think is one of the best feuds I've seen.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. I think that was must see TV for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that initial period was must see. I wanted to see what CM Punk was going to do. And I feel like over that 2 years, I wanted to see CM Punk more, whereas I lost interest in Punk in AEW, especially towards that era.
Everything after Brawl In is kind of has an asterisk over it anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, everything after the win over Hangman, probably.
True. Yeah.
And all that, and that's when all this stuff starts.
Yeah. I do agree with Alan on that one, though.
Evan O'Rafferty, Goldberg is fucking class.
Goldberg is kind of class.
He is. But what
kind of class.
Is Evan saying he is class or was class or?
Oh, he's not class now.
Would you like?
There's just something inherently absurd about Goldberg, even now.
That 2016 Survivor Series match against Brock Lesnar
was awesome.
Was fucking tremendous.
As was the rematch at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
that was awesome as well.
Yeah. Just balls to the wall, two big fucking brutes.
Obviously his initial WCW run, the initial run, the streak and all that was just perfect booking of a fairly green wrestler who looks scandalously impressive. Perfect.
His
and
WWE
the latter
run
WCW shit
into his WWE
wasn't good at all.
But his return in 2016, I remember
subsequent returns had serious diminishing returns.
Yeah, but that initial shock of him beating Brock Lesnar right out of the gate, going harping back. That's your nostalgia. That's the member berries in your brain being hit. I think Goldberg is class, and I think we were all excited at Bad Blood when he showed up and he was facing off with Gunter. Yeah. You're ooh. You forget about the Undertaker match. You forget about the Fiend stuff and Braun Strowman.
Bad booking though.
Yeah, well, I'm going to get to that in a second.
Goldberg can still be well booked.
But thanks, Evan, for that.
Like,
He needs to be protected.
Yeah, like put him in like a 5-minute, like outrageous brawl with Walter.
Yeah. Oisin McCarthy says the debate of Rock versus Austin shouldn't be one. Austin is head and shoulders above The Rock.
I 100% agree.
Why so?
I just think Austin. Basically like I don't think Austin gets the credit he deserves. Is like Austin is
He's a phenom.
Is like the greatest all-round professional wrestler of all time. And I think like he's basically head and shoulders above everyone.
Like, are you talking about from a wrestling point of view?
I'm talking about everything,
like,
the total package.
Yeah. Like I thought like Rock had phenomenal matches, especially when you consider like
I'm not. This isn't like I'm
like
not.
The Rock's run, like
Rock is Mount Rushmore, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, but like his run in WWF is incredibly short. Whereas Austin, and like he only started like that. His rookie year, I know he's Flex Cabana or whatever, Flex Havana, but like he becomes Rocky Maivia and he's on Survivor Series '96 very very soon, and Austin has years.
Yeah.
Him, you know what I mean? He was down with Chris Adams and doing stuff with him, and then in WCW he's gone up against Ricky Steamboat.
Austin's rookie year was like 1987, I think, or 89 maybe.
Yeah, it could have been.
You know, but like if you look at Austin by like 92, 93 in WCW, he was such a great in-ring wrestler. He hadn't quite figured out the rest of it yet.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, while Austin had that time to develop in the maybe some would classify WCW as the lower leagues at that stage. The Rock kind of was
fast-tracked.
Trial by error, like, you know what I mean? They had to figure it out.
Look, things got bad for him in that first year, like.
Die, Rocky, die.
Yeah, like, the Rock isn't,
so
like,
considering,
legit.
and I would say the same about Kurt Angle, considering how fast and meteoric that rise was, and how short it was.
Yeah.
Because...
We're talking 97 to 03.
And like he's not even massively full time in that period because
by 02, 03 he's not.
Like he loses to Lesnar at SummerSlam
02,
and then he's not really around for until like the Mania build.
Yeah,
for Austin, and he kind of makes an appearance in 04 at that WrestleMania.
Yeah,
but then he's gone. He's gone until Survivor Series 2011, which is like what 15 years after his debut.
Yeah,
but like his peak, I would suggest. Maybe it kind of starts tapering off in 2002.
I would say his peak. He has
that No Way Out feud actually with Hogan as well in 03 before Austin.
Yeah,
that's when Austin has been brought back in by Bischoff and all that.
Yeah, I don't know.
What I'm saying is it's incredibly short. I wouldn't say he's head and shoulders above him, but I would argue, if you're putting an all-time great in there.
It's hard to argue the head and shoulders part.
Yeah,
but I certainly am of the opinion that Stone Cold Steve Austin is above The Rock when it comes to if you're making like an all-time rankings list.
Yeah. We have one in from America. I don't know if they want me to say their name or anything. We'll just say he's a real Celtic tiger. 2001 Invasion was good.
No. That's a hot take. That's hot as shit, man. No,
we still have to do our booking the Invasion. But
the thing about booking the Invasion is
it's like 4 hours.
It's going to have to be like a multi-part extravaganza. Like
I think they went in too quick. I think there was still steam
in what they were doing
in Austin as a heel. I think while it's great that
doing the Invasion right off the back of Austin turning heel.
And then you end up...
both things kind of stamped on each other, and then they had to
Austin
be combined.
Austin ends up in WCW.
Like, because, right...
So he's already after joining with Vince, and then...
Your big 01 story, right, was Austin turning
Well, it was the two-man power trip.
Yeah.
It was Austin and Triple H's quad went.
Yeah. Was that 01 or 02?
So 01.
After Austin turned heel.
Yeah, because by WrestleMania 18, Triple H has made his comeback. He's against Jericho in the main event.
Yeah, correct. So, but your big story, like, that was going to propel the rest of the year was Stone Cold turning heel, right? But also your big story that was going to propel the rest of the year was you just bought WCW and you're doing an Invasion. Shane bought it. It's very hard to balance two things and keep them separate like that. So they ended up
and then you throw in
together.
ECW as well.
You throw in ECW as well, like, and everything. Everything trampled on each other.
Like if some so they make allusions to the fact that WCW has been bought by Shane, obviously, and then you see some of the WCW roster in the crowd at WrestleMania 17, and it doesn't really inspire a lot of hope because
that roster that you see,
you're seeing Stan Stasiak in there,
Sean O'Hare,
or Sean Stasiak. Stan Stasiak is the old,
is the father. Sean O'Hare, Chuck Palumbo.
Yeah, you're seeing. They're
B
like
team.
that's not WCW, like you know what I mean. That's NWO, like
you're not. It's the WCW that they bought, right? So you have the Monday Night Wars, whatever. But the WCW they ended up buying wasn't the WCW they were against in the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah,
They'd like so many of the stars had drifted off or had waned.
But but you're saying so many stars have drifted off over the next 2 years. They all made their way back in,
and most of them, or half of them anyway, performed pretty well.
Like Ric Flair comes the night after the Invasion ends at Survivor Series.
Yeah,
NWO are in by 2003.
Yeah.
Scott Steiner shows up. When's he show up?
03 or 04.
03 maybe.
Yeah,
he's at Royal Rumble 03 against Triple H, isn't he?
Is that right? Rumble 03.
So does he show up in 02?
He must have showed up towards the latter end of 02. December 02 maybe.
At that Survivor Series.
Yeah.
Like you have Scott Steiner there.
As the thing is
NWO, Goldberg shows up after WrestleMania 19, so that's a bit away.
Yeah. He's gone by 20.
But you have Ramon, you have Nash, you have Hogan, you have Flair, you have Steiner.
Goldberg on the way.
Goldberg is a bit further, I'll give you that. But you have Steiner, and then you have DDP and Booker T. That's a perfect...
That's your invasion.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
See, that's the WCW they were against.
You might have been able to... I don't know how long Sting's contract was, but you might have been able to get Sting. And then have them backed up by the younger guys, like your Billy Kidmans and your Chuck Buzz. And Rey Mysterio comes in very, very soon. Like, when does Rey Mysterio show up?
I think it was 04, was it? Or 03?
Yeah, he shows up in 02. So sorry, the invasion happens in 01. Scott Steiner shows up in 02. So the Survivor Series after the invasion.
Yeah.
But that's within a year, Yeah. So if you hold off on it a bit, and their contracts with Time Warner is getting lower and lower, you might be able to buy him out
a bit early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even someone like a Rey Mysterio would have been fucking amazing in the invasion because you had that cruiserweight division.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you factor in the ECW guys, you know what I mean? Because
Jerry Lynn is over, and
but if you put ECW as a fucking threat in it,
but see the problem from the start, Shane, is not even WCW was booked as a threat.
Yeah,
none of them were booked as a threat.
Like that invasion angle, I remember being so stoked for it. But if you actually look at it, and that was a really well bought pay per view, but you're looking at it and you're going chronic,
yeah, really?
And then they had fucking Nick Patrick against Earl Hebner at it, and you're like, what the fuck is this? The only person that stood out really during that invasion is RVD.
Yeah, and he was
because he was having cracker matches with Jeff Hardy.
Yeah,
and they were doing some mad stuff. By the time you get to SummerSlam and you have DDP coming in as a stalker, he was the people's champion.
Dumbest shit ever.
Before The Rock, and then you have him and Canyon get absolutely crushed at SummerSlam.
Yeah, but sure, that's the problem. They didn't book even WCW weren't booked as a threat. So much so that they had to get WWE guys to lead the WCW invasion.
Yeah, Angle goes over.
What's his connection?
Stone Cold, Stone Cold goes over. But if you're doing that, throw Big Show and Jericho over there.
Yeah.
The Radicals. The Radicals would have been perfect to go over there.
Yeah.
Well, we jumped beforehand because we were fucking moles on the inside. It was revealed Paul Heyman was the mole.
Yeah.
But with just a bit of...
Could have been the Radicals and
the Dudley,
Jericho.
I know the Dudleys were on the side. Not the ECW kind of got filtered with the guys that were ECW related, Taz and all that kind of stuff. But with WCW, you could have...
No, it was just... It was a mess. It was a mess. So I don't... And who said that? Is this the Celtic Tiger?
Yeah, he also said that the Sheamus and Jeff Hardy alcoholic angle was good. I don't disagree.
There was a great promo in there. Was the angle good? The whole overall thing? Yeah, it probably was actually.
I like when one of my things I say in the controversy about the controversy episode is that I don't understand why, as a television show, WWE is held to a standard where you can't have controversial arguments or controversial segments based on these fake characters. And I think it's because, and we'll get to it later.
Muhammad Hassan was right.
No, but like, you know, there's fucking TV shows that do terrorism angles and all that kind of stuff. You know, maybe that was too stereotyped. It wasn't nuanced. Maybe that's the problem.
See, that's the issue. We spoke about this before, Shan. The issue isn't doing the controversial shit. It's
Doing
that the
it well.
controversial shit has been filtered through Vince McMahon at the time.
Yeah, it's
You know
not
what
been
I mean?
handled with care.
Yeah, it's not been handled properly.
Because I remember Bully Ray wanted to do the Bully storyline.
Yeah.
He wanted to be Bully Ray in WWE, and they were like, well, we can't because be a star. And they said, well, it's perfect. I come in, be a bully, get taught my lesson.
And then in the end, I'm the guy who loses out.
Yeah, but no, they didn't want to go that way.
Yeah.
Also, that the Goldberg versus the Fiend was quite good.
No.
I didn't
No,
I didn't like that because
Didn't like
like
that.
Goldberg had like buried Kevin Owens as well at that point.
Literally, that was like exactly what almost a year to the day previous, wasn't it?
It was just no, I can't get behind that at all.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one.
Your hot take, so
Can I get him up?
get him up.
Get him up. Okay, my hot takes. I sent you a few of them, didn't I?
You certainly did.
Okay. Here we go.
We're very well prepared.
I'm going to go out of order.
But yeah, whatever order you want. No one knows if it's out with order.
Yeah, the Attitude Era was mostly crap.
Okay, so
Despite the fact I just argued that Stone Cold Steve Austin is the greatest wrestler.
the reason why we wanted to do this podcast is because I noticed that when we're on a topic, we get so like I try and keep the topic
we
on
feel
track.
like we have to stick to the topic that we labelled on the YouTube page.
Yeah, so we circle back to it where you throw absolutely outrageous remarks out sometimes.
Yeah.
Like the Attitude Era was pish. And we don't really have a lot of time. I'm just like, all right, I'll get a clip out of this and that's it.
Yeah, we get 1 minute and we don't get to actually discuss it.
Well, I started thinking about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so I don't remember a lot of wrestling.
There wasn't a lot of wrestling.
I don't remember a lot of great matches from the Attitude Era. Now, that's not to say there isn't.
There is.
Like the I Quit match between The Rock and Mick Foley, one of
Brilliant.
my all-time favorites. Even the cage match at St. Valentine's Day Massacre, whatever. But the
I really like that
the
too.
thing that I remember from the Attitude Era is memorable segments. You remember the beer truck. You remember the Bang 316.
Love the Bang 316.
You know what I mean?
actually
You remember the
prefer
Mick
that to
Foley.
beer truck.
You remember Mick Foley and The Rock having the festival or friendship or This Is Your
This
Life.
is your life, yeah.
You
And
remember
Stone Cold showing up at the hospital and battering Vince McMahon.
Yeah,
at the
and
bedpan.
like even the silly stuff like that we've mentioned, Kai and Tai and Val Venus.
Yeah.
You remember the phrases that were used, the way Road Dogg would come out and say certain things and have his whole shtick, and same with the Godfather, and like you remember more segments than you do the wrestling. So is that what you're basing this opinion on? Or?
Yeah, kind of, right? So there's two things. 97 was, in my opinion, an objectively great year of wrestling / storytelling in WWE. 97.
Yeah.
98 was an objectively great year of main event stuff.
Yeah, well, Austin didn't have a lot of...
Dude, the Mick Foley feud after the Shawn Michaels one, I loved that feud.
Okay.
But then towards the latter half of 98, things started getting a little bit messy. Then you get Foley drafted in to wrestle The Rock towards the end of the year into next year to get it back on track. And then obviously, the main event into 99 between Austin and Rock was great. But the rest of 99, things started to kind of fall off a cliff a little bit.
Is that because like the corporate ministry and Vince being really involved?
Exactly, becomes so overbearing. And
he wins the Royal Rumble that year.
Yeah.
He wins the title.
He wins the 99 Royal Rumble.
He wins the title though, doesn't he?
That's later.
Yeah, in 99
I think it's 99 as well. So like a lot of shit starts to hit the fan later 99 in terms of, I think what's probably happening, right, is Stone Cold is gearing up to take a break. And like you end up with like just this kind of nearly a bit of a mess of a main event scene that like this title has been hot shot all over the place. They need to get it onto the Rock and they don't pull the trigger right in 2000. They postpone it to Backlash. They build to WrestleMania 2000 with the four corners with the McMahons in every corner. That stuff is bad shit. Like even though like you have nuggets in there, like you said, Triple H versus Foley But like the big thing there was
Rock
like
versus Foley. Well, Triple H versus
Foley in 2000.
2000, yeah. The Royal Rumble,
and
sorry.
like, but both years kind of mirrored each other.
3 Stages of Hell, or was that 2001? Yeah, that's still the attitude there of Triple H versus Austin.
Amazing. But like, it's just a lot of it is just such messy, and I think a lot of it was they'd happened onto this really hot shit in 98, late 97 into 98 with Austin McMahon. And they had to keep finding ways to continue that dynamic. And it just kind of got worse and messier over time. And then Vince didn't know how to he forgot like how to have his top babyface without him being the counterbalance.
Yeah, because he was the top heel.
Yeah, so like the McMahon still had to be the top heel. So like now The Rock had to like
and that goes to show like Vince becoming the higher power.
Yeah,
and
he had to constantly insert himself when there was more.
It was so enjoyable though at the time because it was so unpredictable. You didn't know what the fuck was happening.
You were 12, I was 15. Of course it was.
Yeah, like so that's.
No, and
like so when you're saying that it's overrated, is this like in hindsight? Or?
Yes, in hindsight, yeah. But I think we can do that.
But but like, do you not really need to say this whole generation maybe was overrated or whatever? Maybe this goes against everything that we did with the new generation pocket. Do you not really need to sit down
and rewatch the whole
it? If you're to say the whole generation, now you can say certain elements of it were bad.
Yeah. Look, you also have like nuggets in there, like Shane McMahon versus Kurt Angle feud was excellent.
Sure, Kurt Angle's ascendancy was amazing.
Just amazing. Like
Chris Jericho's debut. Like,
and then things kind of we know
the Radicals debut.
Yeah, super exciting. But this connects to my next hot take. The Undertaker is massively overrated. I know I'm gonna get mad shit for that online.
Why would you classify?
I think the Undertaker
one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
I don't think he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Why? Well, what are you pointing to?
In a 3-decade career, he has very few top-level great matches.
No, but the thing is, he can pull them out when he wants to.
Pull them out more.
But he didn't need to. So when you look at the gimmick in itself, it was curtailed for so long. Until he gets like a viable opponent that you can go with. Like, you cannot tell me that Giant Gonzalez and King Kong Bundy and Kamala...
That's not his fault.
Yeah.
King Kong Bundy, but like he could have had... they met at the wrong time of King Kong Bundy's career, you know what I mean?
He's had...
And Giant Gonzalez was just never going to work.
He's had great matches with Brett.
Yeah.
With Foley.
Yeah.
With Austin.
I don't know if him and Austin ever had a great match.
With Triple H.
I don't think any of their matches were top level.
WrestleMania 17.
That was good match. That's a good match.
Yeah, but like considering that card and how fucking stacked
that card is insane. But that was a good match.
Shawn Michaels, arguably the greatest wrestling match of all time.
There's no argument. This is really the reason I think Undertaker is overrated. Is people argue with me that the Shawn Michaels Undertaker matches are
WrestleMania 25.
That's not in no way is that one of the greatest matches of all time.
How?
It's a fucking very, very good match. But we're talking the history of wrestling here.
Yes,
that's not one of the greatest matches.
But like, think about the streak was such a powerful storytelling.
Brilliant. The streak is great.
So I remember watching WrestleMania 25.
Yeah,
just been like,
did you think Shawn Michaels was going to win?
During the match, they made me believe Shawn Michaels was going to win.
Oh yeah,
that's what's so great about it.
I'm not saying.
Like WrestleMania 26 failed to live up to 25, and that's because they repeated some of the spots. Even though there was more,
it was still really, really.
Even
good
though there
match,
was more on the line, but I remember how I felt watching WrestleMania 25.
Yeah, like I'm not saying that isn't a great match. That is a great match, but it's not one of the greatest 25 matches of all time. Like, we're talking like in the history of wrestling all
Is it the greatest WWE match?
No.
What would you put over it?
Austin Brett.
I still think it's better than Austin Brett.
I would put... I should have thought about this in advance.
Would you put AEW matches ahead of that?
I would put a couple.
You like that Young Bucks, Hangman, Kenny?
I love that match so much. Yeah.
Better than WrestleMania 25?
Yeah. I would also put...
you can tune out to the podcast now if you're as disgusted as I am.
I would put Danielson Ospreay above it. And I would put Danielson Swerve above it.
Factor in, like, how many guys that are near 7 foot can pull off what the Undertaker pulls off.
Undertaker's good. He's just overrated.
I cannot. What are you basing it on, though?
I just like. I don't.
His great match with Edge at 24.
Yeah, I actually love that match.
Like,
but like
maybe not Mark. Maybe like against other big guys. I can see that. Like Kane.
Another issue I have is actually they put him against Kane way too fucking often, and they actually didn't have good chemistry.
They had two Mania matches.
Yeah. And like even their tag team as a tag team, like it was weird that like they have two guys that make sense to keep going back to that feud and that partnership, but they just didn't have great chemistry.
Batista at WrestleMania 23.
Wasn't gone on that.
Brilliant match.
I do remember Alan Marr, who messaged in a few things there earlier. He was watching that in my house, and Batista did like the Arn Anderson move, Spinebuster. 2 minutes into the match, he goes for a pin, and Alan jumps out of the chair. Kick out Taker.
See, that Undertaker made you believe. Like matches with Randy Orton were pretty good.
Do you want me to get to a Randy Orton one?
No, you need to defend it. I can't believe that.
I think he's overrated. Yeah.
Now, I will say when people are saying like the Mount Rushmore of wrestling,
he's not near that.
I'm not saying he's not near that, but people never put him on it.
He shouldn't be.
And I find it strange that it's like Hogan, Rock and Austin from the same era, and then John Cena. Like, because they're
hard to argue with that.
But they're the people that are carrying the load of the most successful business. Now, I'm not saying they're the best wrestlers, but they're the faces of wrestling.
Different eras. Yeah. Yeah.
Like Ric Flair, amazing. Dusty, amazing. Taker, amazing.
If WCW had have won the war, then Flair would be on the Mount Rushmore instead of Hogan or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they would change the narrative.
The narrative would be different. Yeah. And he would have been...
It'd be Flair, Sting, Hogan probably as well.
Maybe as well, guys that come around, yeah.
And Hogan. Fucking Sean Stasiak.
It's not like I'm not here trying to say that I don't think Undertaker has done great things, but I think he's overrated.
I like his Boneyard match with AJ Styles. One of my favourite matches. I genuinely love
and like I also don't want this to be seen as a take that like his last few years, like the Roman Reigns under WrestleMania match that sucked. But I'm not judging it off that. I don't think
his
that's
stuff
fair.
with Lesnar was great. His stuff with Angle was great.
I don't think a lot of his. No, I watched his Angle matches. Angle really struggled to get a good match. That period of Taker, when he was driving around the motorbike, he was bad. He did not give a shit about wrestling.
Yeah, but
also
around
MMA Taker was dog shit as well.
Well, no, MMA Taker as like a gimmick was bad, but as a worker he was great.
I didn't think he was great.
He lost a lot of weight.
He was moving better than he was as the American Badass.
He had great matches with Jeff Hardy, RVD.
They were good. Yeah, they were good. Yeah, but like I'm saying overrated because people genuinely try and claim he's like top 10 wrestler of all time.
He is.
He is not near
like
the top
the
10.
Longevity of that character.
That's all. Like that.
But that's wrestling. That is wrestling. That is all encompassing.
It's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, right, he mightn't be the best at doing move A to B to C as fluidly as someone else. But like,
I also think a lot of
time
though is, and we've seen this become more prominent in the latter years of they roll him out for WrestleMania. Because of his, in some ways, at times, not all the time, but at times, his character was almost a weight around his neck. You couldn't do a whole lot with him. So you send him off for 6 months of the year and you bring him back for WrestleMania. And he doesn't do that many angles in the build to WrestleMania. He shows up with the spooky music every now and again. And like you don't do a whole lot with him. It's protecting the character.
That was towards the latter end of his career.
There was a lot, that was from the mid-2000s on. Where he wasn't like a staple of weekly TV.
He was on SmackDown. Like for SmackDown, he was on SmackDown for a long, long time.
Like we're talking 02 to 05.
Yeah.
But he wasn't even there for a lot of that.
Oh, he was.
He wasn't, not a weekly staple. He'd do like 3 months on and then 4 months off.
Oh, we'll check into that. We'll get up his cage match details.
I'm more than happy to do that.
Do you want me to hit you with one?
Yeah.
Internet wrestling fans are the worst thing about wrestling.
Yeah. Including us.
Yeah.
I just argued that the Undertaker was overrated there for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like we are so bad. Like I hate the way I can't just sit and enjoy it.
It's not
I hate the way I can't just sit and enjoy a tremendous worker like the Undertaker without critiquing him.
But no, right? Let's be honest, right? What WrestleMania did we watch this year? 41? You sat there and you tremendously enjoyed WrestleMania 40.
Yeah.
Why?
It was just good.
Because it was good.
Yeah.
So, like, you're under no obligation to sit there and enjoy WrestleMania 41 when it's shit.
Yeah.
That's not your fault.
But the discourse around it it's very unhealthy, I'd imagine. Maybe not shooting the breeze with your friends down like about it or whatever, but it's such a mindfuck because we pick apart everything.
But I think people who are ultra fans of anything do that.
Yeah.
If you're a big fan of anything, you end up picking it apart.
And that's a testament, I think, to the product. Yeah. But sometimes I feel like we complain more about, not just us, like internet wrestling fans complain more about the negative stuff as opposed to
highlighting the positive.
But that's the same in everything.
Look, you're a Man United fan, I'm a Man United fan. They're the most talked about club in the world right now because everything is negative. Like, nobody's talking about the clubs that are doing amazing things. There's more talk about United than there is about Liverpool.
Yeah.
Because negativity is, you get more mileage out of talking about.
But like, is there something to be said for just like turning on this TV show, watching it, and then turning it off?
No, I can't do that. There's a passivity to that. That's just not who I am.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be nice though?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. It feels dumb to me. It feels like you're wasting your time if you're just going to mindlessly.
But like wrestling as a concept, like especially the one that we grew up with, was like quite corny. And this, I think, gritty reality-based wrestling that we're probably hoping for. I don't think we're ever going to get a full commitment to that. So there's always going to be like weird, hokey, bad storytelling, you know, especially with the amount of television that's been written.
And also, especially because Vince for so long has defined that as what wrestling is. And it's very hard for it to break out.
But like, I know, I've watched like my fair share of New Japan stuff to go, there's a lot of shit on here too.
Yeah, because like Gedo is heavily influenced by American booking.
Not just Gedo though. Like I've watched New Japan stuff where they're having like.
But he's the booker. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, but not just Gedo. Like he hasn't been the booker for. Like how long's he been the booker for?
15 years, 16 years.
Maybe that's all.
Yeah. Was it 09 or something? Maybe. Yes. It's a lot. Now I know the first few years he was booking. There was 3 of them doing it together. But
I just remember watching a lot of Wrestle Kingdoms going, there's a lot of shit in
Oh, yeah. Like
and this is your WrestleMania, you know, or whatever.
Yeah. Like the thing, Wrestle Kingdom as well, like, really is, really, they're like, what, 4 match cards? You get a lot of undercard multi-man tags that aren't, like, good or, like, super, like, highlighted in the storytelling and the build and all. But, like, you know, you're watching Wrestle Kingdom for your
King Omega,
your 4 main singles matches or tag match at the top. You know what I mean?
But that was the problem.
Yeah, Gedo's super influenced by American.
That was the problem with WrestleMania, though, is that like a lot of stuff on it
was multi-man.
Well, no, it probably like denigrated the bigger matches because you're just like sitting through a New Day Viking Raiders match that you're like meh.
Yeah, meh.
But that's because New Day Viking Raiders match, they've taught you to believe that that's a SmackDown or a Raw match, you know, as opposed to the tag team titles are being defended. This is huge. Yeah. No, you can see the tag team titles pretty much being defended quite a lot.
Like, they've been defended this week.
Like, and you know what? Like, they had they main evented like WrestleMania with the Usos
and
Owens and Sami Zayn. Yeah. They made them feel so important, and like I think Owens and Zayn carried it quite well. And then you had the Judgment Day in the mix and stuff.
Well, that goes back to my hot take of Triple H just isn't a good booker. I know we clickbaited the fuck out of that before, but he is so reliant on like 4 or 5 different things. Like, how many times has he done the storyline of here's a faction and there's internal strife?
But that's wrestling. That's a wrestling faction. That's
yeah, like, but like none of these factions now don't have internal strife. Like, or prolong a storyline by adding a new member to the faction. Like, why? Like, what is going to happen? Where's the bloodline going to go? Like, what, you're going to add like 47 more?
Sure, Judgment Day.
Judgment Day is just a constant cycle.
Judgment Day was initially Rhea, Edge, and
Priest. Yeah.
Like, I know that was only the iteration for like a month.
Yeah.
But like,
and then Balor, Priest, Rhea, and then keep adding people and subtracting people and
Dom,
internal strife and like they've done he's done the internal strife story. Carlitos there. They've done the internal strife story like with that one faction. Honestly, like Finn and Dominic are doing it now. Is this like the 15th time that faction has had some sort of internal strife?
Yeah, but that's probably what will just happen when you're having people vying for leaders. Like, you're looking at AEW and how many fucking names does Adam Cole have for his faction? What are they called now?
I don't know.
Paragon.
That's
what they're called.
No, did they change it again? No, it's Paragon.
No, it's because I seen the Don Callis family is going up against Paragon at Double or Nothing. I was like, who the fuck are Paragon again?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Undisputed Kingdom faction
without the
era.
kingdom.
Yeah, you're just like, what? You know, so...
Yeah, but like, no, it's way more pronounced.
Sorry, I don't want to be comparing them. I want to stick to your point of Triple H.
Yeah, so that's like one trick that he keeps going back to.
I think I read Meltzer said that...
His booking is boring, Shane.
But I think I read Meltzer that says that it's simple and it's tried and tested, and that's why it works. So there's not much...
Is it working now,
There's not much unpredictability yet.
Yeah. And things move at a glacial pace. It's okay to have some things move slow, but you need other things moving fast around that. Whereas Triple H just generally tends to book everything at a similar pace.
I think they need like
there's a lack of dynamism.
I'd love a proper hardcore division again.
You need something to speed up.
Like the 24/7 thing of people chasing you around in the backstage and stupid, but like something out there and different.
Yeah. But Triple H isn't like he's not an inherent risk taker with his booking. Like it's like you said, it's safe.
Yeah.
But I think his safe is kind of just dull.
I think it's like old school though.
It's not like no. You can go back and watch Jim Crockett from the 80s, and it this actually leads into another hot take of mine that I texted you earlier. But if you go back to Jim Crockett of the 80s, like it's way more dynamic than what we're getting from the Triple H stuff now. No, we don't. I do think
we've only watched I watch a lot of World Class Championship Wrestling. Say, like I'm only watching like here's the show that I've seen on Larry's Classic Sports. Right, I'm going to watch this now.
Yeah,
sit down and I'll watch it. And then, I might watch something that's not interconnected. I'm just watching it for the matches.
And
to look at and to see some cool shit and like enjoy the match.
Mm-hmm.
And I do the same with like sometimes, not a lot of Memphis, but like I'll watch a bit of Memphis.
No.
Like, I remember
Memphis isn't really for me.
I remember I watched Memphis and I was like, "There's Rick Rude," and he is absolutely dog shit. He's at the start.
I love when you see these lads who like. You see an 86 and they're crap, and then you remember them as the guy in 94 who was awesome.
Well, what I'm saying is,
Rick Martel
with Jim Crockett Promotions, like we're looking back on Jim Crockett at like, Flair for the Gold and like these cool storylines. You're not looking at all the other storylines that are happening. So in years to come, when people look back on this era, they'll be looking at Cody finishing his story. We have yet to see the end of John Cena's reign, so that might turn out to be good. It started off great. It's gone a lot downhill since, but that might turn out to be good.
It won't.
And looking back on that, and same with the Bloodline and these.
Like the Bloodline, like this,
like you're not going to remember El Grande Americano.
No, but this vaunted Bloodline story, like it never got an epic conclusion, and now we're on to the B team and C team.
Well, like
doing
the January 6th, the Ulafala to Roman Reigns.
Is that the conclusion? Because if it is...
Well, but like with everything in life, especially with family stuff, they're always going to have that conflict. So, like, I remember when, was it War Games, Roman and Jacob faced off? Or that could have been the Rumble. And you've seen the two of them face off, and you're like, I'm going to see this in a few years. And they're going to tie their bloodline stuff into that. And that makes sense. It's coherent storytelling.
Yeah, but also like...
As opposed to like forgetting it. Like
what I'm saying, like you look at the bloodline now, right? And it's... Jey Uso has peeled off it. Jimmy Uso has peeled off it. Although they tried to reinsert him last week in some nonsense way. Sami Zayn has gone over it. Roman Reigns has gone over it. Paul Heyman's gone over it. They're all gone over it for a reason.
Yeah, but Jesse Mateo, Jacob Fatu, Solo Sikoa, like they're not called the Bloodline anymore, are they?
They were still referencing the Bloodline there last week.
Yeah, they'll reference them because it was like a huge part of history. It was 4 years.
They're calling them the Bloodline 2.0.
Were they?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
That's one of the commentators said that.
Maybe.
It was just like,
Maybe I got that.
but, like,
Maybe they could be
all
called
those
like
guys-
Paragon 2.0.
well, it could be. But all those guys, with the Paragon, whatever about them, they're like bit part players on Collision. The Bloodline are taking up like hours of television on a Friday night.
Solos the main event.
You know what I mean? This crazy shit, like, and this to me, that's the bad booking of it. Is like, but also any of those guys probably will have a bit of sway backstage. Paul Heyman was like, right, what does Paul Heyman do so incredibly? He allies himself with the guys near the top of the card, and that gives him longevity in the business.
Yeah, but that might be vice versa as well, like, because you're getting such a useful tool.
Yeah.
And
But it goes both ways. But also, like, Paul, right? What has Paul done? He did years with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's starting to wind down. What does Paul do? Pivots to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is starting to wind down. What's he do? Pivots again.
He's pivoting to Rollins, but I really think he's pivoting
to
towards
Braun. He's pivoting to Braun. He sees that the next 5-6 years is with Braun, and I'll be his guy, and I'll book Braun Breaker's storylines and matches.
Yeah, he's not. That when I seen that,
He's not pivot. The pivot isn't to Rollins. The pivot's to Braun because that's the future.
It is the future.
Yeah, he knows that too. He's the smartest man in wrestling.
Yeah.
He's getting to do Paul Levesque's dream job without having to book El Grande Americano.
Yeah, because everyone trusts him and wants to be.
Right, who's going to be in the room when a year's time Braun Breaker's in a main event and going for a title, is going to win his first title? Who's going to be in the room, talking through the booking of that?
Paul.
Paul, like, don't get me wrong, Triple H will be there, but Paul Heyman will 100% have a heavy say in that.
So are you saying like a lot of the bloodline, because they have said that the bloodline stuff was Roman and Paul, like,
Yeah, it's dead. It's gone.
coming up with those ideas.
Yeah, so now it's Triple H going to be booking Bloodline B teams against each other.
Yeah, I think Jacob Fatu's the star though. So
Oh, don't get me wrong, I think Jacob's a star.
Yeah.
I think Jeff Cobb is great as well, but also you have to remember Jeff Cobb's like 45 years of age, like.
yeah, he's on the down end.
Yeah, he is.
And they made him wrestle like in a fuck.
What the fuck was that about? The clothes and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, and I'm delighted Jeff Cobb is there. Hopefully he's getting like a absolute great pay.
I would have loved like someone like Matanza.
Who's Matanza?
That's him in Lucha Underground.
Oh, sorry,
Mantanza, yeah.
Mantanza, the mask and all.
Yeah, like that was phenomenal.
But like, you know, he can't be that as dynamic as he was then.
Yeah,
Like, what age was he then? Like 33 or 4 or
There's a match on OTT YouTube, I think it's Ricochet and Jeff Cobb, and I heard some cool things about that behind the scenes, in that they didn't know when their match was on. They thought they were in the latter half of the card, and they were told they were at the start of the card. So the whole match is called on the fly.
Deadly.
And it's meant to be absolutely tremendous. So I have to go check that out on the OTT YouTube channel.
I think that's free on it.
Yeah.
I've watched it. Yeah.
Another hot take while we're on the topic of Roman Reigns is I think the longevity of title reign,
I like this one.
so yeah, on the topic of Roman Reigns, the longevity of the title reign would pale in comparison to the number of defenses.
Correct.
And
WWE like to spout the numbers of he's been champion for 4,762 days.
He's defended it 4 times.
Yeah,
you know,
like, he hasn't defended the fucking title in 6 months. Who cares?
like, does it bring no more of an MMA boxing feel to it? Because like the boxing titles and MMA titles don't get defended.
I
that
thought
much.
that at first that it would have that effect if they were defended more sparingly. I like, you know, before the Romans reign, like that.
I did.
Before Roman's reign, I thought like, and we knew he was going to be going away for periods of time, and other things would have to take center stage while he was gone. Then he'd come back for a big title defense. I thought these are going to feel like super huge, but also, and I think the fact that we kind of knew he was only ever going to lose it at WrestleMania. Like, if he'd been defending it every month,
when he lost to Cody, there was no sense of jeopardy until the following Mania. I will agree with that.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to lose to Cody at 39.
Same.
But there was no sense of like he was up against like Jimmy Uso or whatever.
Yeah.
There was no sense of he was losing this now.
Yeah, and I think that hurt as well.
Yeah.
The fact he's not around that often, so when he is around, the match should feel huge. But also, it's been kind of telegraphed that we all know he's not losing it till Mania.
Yeah.
Whereas if he'd been around monthly and on TV every week, some of them title defenses, like pre-Survivor Series and stuff, if he was doing a monthly title defense type thing, he could have lost one and won it back in December. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I like it. That feeds into the whole thing. And maybe it's just because I hate John Cena so much. This whole 18, 17-time champion thing. I think that became particularly egregious during the term where we had 3 world titles.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know if they classify the ECW one as a
reign. I don't know.
No, I don't think they do. But like, fucking. Like Charlotte, she's on what, 15 world titles, 14 world titles,
what it is,
and she's been wrestling ridiculous. 10 years.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And you're like, well, that's because you had 2 women's titles and you were flip flopping back and forth.
And you had at times there that had 2 women's titles and 5 people in each division.
Like I would put more credence in Brett's title runs, of which there is so few in comparison to Edge's.
Yeah.
Or like you, or Triple H's or Randy Orton's.
Yeah, like Brett used his so well to like have these great TV matches with like Virgil and 1, 2, 3 Kid and all,
Yeah, but like he won the title at a time when that was genuinely the top prize.
Yeah.
In that.
And it wasn't just like
it's not like a Booker T 5-time thing where he wins it 5 times in the space of a month.
Yeah.
And they like, you know what I mean? Win and losing. Like, and even at that, like you'd win a title in WWE and then later on in the show you could cash in. Or like you could enter, like Edge did that. He didn't cash in, but didn't he win lose the title at an elimination chamber, and then was the surprise appearance in the elimination chamber and won that title? And you're like, well, that's just another reign on that. Doesn't really hold.
Yeah, it devalues.
But also, when Flair did it, he was a 17-time world champion or whatever. Maybe a lot of those title reigns were kind of the same. I don't really know. I just remember like the NWA title and the big gold and the WWE.
The mad thing about Flair's 16 is that it's actually about 22. Like loads of times he'd lose it on a tour of wherever,
Japan, win it back, Puerto Rico.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually really about 22 title reigns. But yeah, like Flair would win it and lose it a lot.
Yeah, like
he lost it down in Dallas to Kerry Von Erich. And like, how long was Kerry Von Erich's reign? 3-4 weeks.
Yeah,
Flair won it back. So yeah, like. There is. It's not like.
But it's not like Flair. Like there was another world title in the same company on the go, so they could like pad it out. I think it meant more back then.
100%.
And it became way too diluted.
Essentially, like he had the 16 whatever, but like the first like 12 of them took place over a decade, where he was defending the title probably 3 times a week. And so he, of course, like, he got 12 runs in 10 years, but he was mostly the champion for the full decade, and he'd lose it sometimes because he's wrestling 3 nights, or he's wrestling 7 nights a week, but he's defending it in different places, like multiple times per week. So back
some
then,
of that'd be like non-canon shit though. Like,
but that's where the 22 comes in. But out of the 16 ones that are canon.
But like I think from a world title defense thing, the way to elevate those 2 world titles is
there is none while you have 2.
Well, in my opinion, I if you classify Raw and SmackDown as 2 completely different things now,
they're not though,
and they were very muddied for a while, and that's where all the title changes were happening. But if you do,
but they're not.
Just indulge me.
Okay, I'll indulge.
If you do, they're only defended on pay-per-views, right?
Yeah,
which is fair enough for a Saturday night main event, but you elevate the US and Intercontinental titles as your like TV
titles. Yeah,
and they're defended quite regularly, and I think they're trying to get that balance now.
Yeah, then they just kind of things just fall by the wayside from time to time and stuff. I just think, regardless of brand splits, whatever, you can't have 2 world titles that both feel the same in importance. It's impossible. There's one world champion.
Speaking of someone who has a significant amount of world titles, Mr. Randall Keith Orton.
Yeah, here's my next hot take. Randy Orton is not an all-time great.
Now, you said this on our Backlash watch-along, and I said, name 50 lads who are better than him. So you've went away, and you've compiled 50 names. So these...
Hang on, can I just give the rules by which I created this?
Yeah.
I needed to see at least 10 of their matches. They're the rules.
Okay. So the rules of Morro's list of the 58 greatest wrestlers... No,
they're not 58 wrestlers better than Randy Orton.
Right, let me introduce this better. Okay, so welcome to the 58 wrestlers that are better than Randy Orton according to Morro, of which each wrestler he has had to see at least have 10 matches. Take it away, bud.
Bret Hart, Bryan Danielson, Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, Steve Austin, The Rock, Ric Flair, Terry Funk, Ricky Steamboat, Piper, Savage, Andre the Giant, Sting, Vader, Jericho, Styles, Dusty Rhodes, Lesnar, Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Owen Hart, Liger, Dynamite Kid, Mr. Perfect, Rey Mysterio Jr., Rob Van Dam, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Will Ospreay, Hangman Adam Page, Christian, Kenny Omega, Misawa, Kawada, Kobashi, Samoa Joe, The Great Muta, John Cena, Tanahashi, Okada, Ibushi, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Jay Briscoe, John Moxley, Tomohiro Ishii, Bam Bam Bigelow, Sabu, Jumbo Saruta, Edge, Scott Hall, Stan Hansen, Jake the Snake, Rick Rude, Rick Martel, Scott Steiner, Jeff Hardy, Mystico.
We're getting kicked off the internet. That there's some name. You started off quite well, and then when you start going into Hangman Adam Page, and John
Hangman Adam
Moxley,
Page and Moxley are way better than Randy Orton. They bring a far greater depth of excitement. They do. Randy Orton's biggest problem is he's just not that exciting. He's boring.
like that's just your opinion, man.
He looks fantastic, and I actually do like Randy Orton. I find him incredible.
Well, you like 58 other people better.
Yeah, I've watched thousands upon thousands of hours of wrestling. If I I love 150 different wrestlers.
I cannot wait to put this up online.
I
cannot wait for the stick you get. I can't argue with a lot of them, though.
You can't argue with a lot. I mean, look at that. I know people will get tribal over the Hangmans and Will Ospreays and stuff. People will get tribal over
Rick
that.
Martel?
Fucking Rick Martel was fantastic.
What Rick are you talking about, though? AWA Rick?
Yeah, Rick from AWA
the model,
up to the
Strike
model.
Force.
Strike Force, Rick Martel was fantastic.
Mystico.
AWA, yeah, Mystico.
You watch a lot of Mexican stuff?
I don't watch a lot. I watch enough to...
Ishii.
Yeah, look, Ishii is, for me, right?
Did you want to put Mark Briscoe in as well as Jay?
I could have, but I didn't want it to be a tag teamy thing. For me, Ishii, right? That was one that I was people are going to argue that one. But Ishii there from 20, when I first got into New Japan, and I started watching all the G1s as they were on. I was Ishii is the greatest tournament wrestler who's ever lived. I was I can't believe that this guy is doing this night after night after night after night.
Are you actually, my problem with it is, what you think wrestling is and what I think wrestling is are two separate concepts.
Yeah, do I think that all 58 of these are a bigger star than Randy Orton? No, but I don't care about who's a bigger star.
I'm not even saying that. I'm not Randy Orton's biggest fan. I think Randy Orton has been dull for the longest time.
Yeah.
In terms of his presentation.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see Randy Orton almost the most interesting Randy Orton was to me was when he was with the Wyatts.
Yes.
And
I like that.
even at that he never really changed his appearance. He just he wore
wore the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
And that was the most interesting he's been to me since
I think
probably Legacy.
I would say all of these, in the context in which they exist, are more complete performers than Randy Orton.
No, I definitely have a problem with that in my opinion, because it Randy Orton looks like the perfect wrestler.
Yeah.
Right? He has that look and he has that aura about him.
He has a great aura.
There's no denying that. And I hate using that word aura because it's become a new term along with cinema and wrestling. The use of the word cinema and wrestling.
Go to the cinema.
Cop on.
If you want to watch a great movie, movies are better at doing cinema than wrestling is.
Yeah.
Watch wrestling because you like wrestling. If you want cinema, go to the fucking cinema.
There's a lot more to being a wrestler, say, than what Sabu brought to the table. Although, he did bring something interesting and different. So,
yeah, that's what I mean.
It's hard for me to argue that.
Within the context in which they exist at their time. Ishii, right? He's a perfect one. He exists. His character exists within the way New Japan is structured. And I think he's better in that context than Randy Orton is within his context.
Okay, I get you now. Yeah.
And same with Sabu. You think Sabu in the 90s.
But you can also like make that. You can bring that so small down.
You can do that too.
You can
Yeah.
bring that like James Ellsworth in the context of his local indie promotion. Is the greatest wrestler of all time.
He might be, but I don't see that local indie promotion.
That's what I'm saying. It's
I could have added Tanaka and Mike Awesome here too.
like in the massive context of pro wrestling, like Randy Orton is probably the ultimate wrestler. Because
but is he though? Like, because he's kind of boring. Like,
yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, and there's so many times
he's one of the greatest finishers of all time.
Yeah. And he does it really well.
His look is. I keep
perfect.
coming back to the look. Yeah,
his look is perfect.
Like generally, like I don't get excited for Randy Orton matches.
That's my point. That is my point. Like I feel like
for Ishii matches either, but
I feel like I don't get excited for Ishii matches in 2025, but in 2017, if like
or Moxley matches anymore.
Right now I don't, but like 3-4 years ago I did.
Stone Pitbull.
But like Ishii matches like 2017, 2018, if I was watching, like, it'd be summer, I was teaching at the time, I'd be off in August, the G1 would be on, I'd be getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning.
That's smelly this way.
Ishii'd be wrestling someone, I'd be like, yeah, this is going to be great. And it would be great.
You're going to get so much dogs abuse.
I'm going to get dogs abuse for that. I'm okay with that though. I live for the dogs abuse.
Yeah, I know you do.
But I genuinely believe that every single person I mentioned on that list is better within their context than Randy Orton.
I just have two more.
Go on.
This is my quick one. Chops should be banned.
I disagree. I love chops.
I love them too, but like,
why should they be banned? I know Bret Hart was saying. Is this the? Go on.
I think as an actual move in wrestling, like you don't win anything with a chop. Visually, they sound great, but they hurt and sting like a motherfucker. So unless you're someone like Walter, there's no need for them. Like if
chops are overused.
Wrestling is the illusion and simulation of violence.
Okay, Brett.
Right? But like to actually hurt someone while you're doing something, that's just not what wrestling is. And that's not, like, I'm not a massive fan of stiff wrestling. When I see someone get kicked in the head, I'm like,
I like stiff wrestling. I like stiff wrestling, to be honest, yeah.
People like laying it in. You're like, well, you're not really conducting the art form.
Now, also as well, right?
You're just taking a beating, which is impressive.
There's a difference between lads on your local indie trying to do stiff wrestling versus a pro wrestling a main event from 2006 where the best guys of that style are doing.
Like I've seen like fucking Nigel McGuinness bursting his head off the ring post and stuff. And you're like, man,
do you really need to be doing that?
Yeah, like that's not.
Yeah,
like it's cool, especially at the time when I was younger. I was like, this is badass, but like
that Nigel stuff, like 07 to 09ish was bonkers. Like
Miz isn't really wrong when he was talking about Daniel Bryan in certain aspects. He's like, I've never been injured. I keep it safe.
But also, I've never cared about a single thing the Miz has done.
No, he's had his moments.
Not once. I ever
no, Sandow. Him and Sandow.
I didn't care about the Miz. I cared about Sandow.
Yeah, but you cared about Sandow because of the Miz.
No, I cared about Sandow because he was endlessly entertaining.
Miz for his career that he's had. I'm not comparing Miz to Danielson.
I'm
just saying, like, I see sense in what he says.
Look, there is sense in that of being safe.
Like, I love watching Vader punch Mick Foley in the face.
It's glorious.
It's so good. I'll come back to that clip all the time.
All the time.
And like that style of wrestling of Sabu, where he's just fucking flinging his body around.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore it.
And even that style is kind of sterilized now.
Yeah, but it's cool, like, because you've seen these guys, you haven't really seen it before. When everybody starts doing it, and like when Eddie Kingston starts hitting his little little Kenta Kobashi chops.
Yeah, leave that to Kobashi, man. You know what I mean? Like when Kobashi, like go and watch, not you at home, Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi. Like,
but also go watch Samoa Joe against Necro Butcher.
Oh, 100% watch that. Like, where's my pen? I'm adding Necro Butcher based solely off that match.
Yeah.
That is so good.
Like, I used to love watching Necro Butcher stuff.
Yeah. Samoa Joe versus Necro Butcher might be... That's better than Shawn Michaels HBK.
like CZW and Ring of Honor were having this feud at the time, if you don't know what's happening. And
they were down the street from one another for a few years.
Necro Butcher didn't really know how to wrestle. But
and Samoa Joe knew how to wrestle.
He does like a belly-to-belly suplex. And Necro Butcher it looked like he cracked his skull.
That's such a great match. It's so great. Like.
It's go check it out. I'm sure it's online somewhere.
I think you can get both the Joe Kobashi and Joe Necro Butcher matches for free on YouTube.
You're doing yourself as this.
Like just watch them back to back.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about stiff wrestling at its peak, like they're two perfect examples. Oh God, I'm going to watch Small Joe Necker Butcher tonight.
Necker Butcher. I would have loved to see him have like at least a run in TNA. Him and Abyss.
Remember I was saying I brought him into my TWIX save.
Yeah.
I only brought him in like on a 6-month run to have like a really wild hardcore feud with Punk, who had just turned face. I brought him in. I imagined that the matches were like the Samoa Joe and Necker Butcher match, but yeah, check that out.
Did they get good ratings?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got decent ratings. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm not allowed to be violent in my TNA save.
yeah, it's the product.
I haven't
played.
I haven't played it that much actually.
I haven't played it that much recently.
I was building up for Bound for Glory, and
I think as well, John, you just got in the game. One of the best things you can do is book a promotion that has one monthly show.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah. I've
instead
added
of getting burdened down, you added
an extra show.
Yeah. So you were doing a weekly TV plus another weekly show plus a monthly pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You move at a snail's pace then, like.
Yeah.
And that gets me on to my next hot take. Wrestling is not designed to be a weekly TV product.
Oh, fuck off.
I think weekly TV it makes wrestling a worse product than what it is.
Why?
Because we've ended up in this thing of like constantly like having angles and storylines and blah. Like,
that's amazing.
Some of that is amazing, but it can be done like in different ways. You know what I mean?
You can
like,
use.
I just think that there's a confined weekly wrestling of we have these big massive TV deals and we need to have our 2-hour show perfect every Monday or every Wednesday or every Friday or 3-hour show, whatever it is. It's just this thing of like constant like need for content, and you burn through ideas too quick. Like, you know, when we talk about you go back and watch an old Jim Crockett show from the 80s, right? They might only do 7 or 8 big angles a year.
Yeah, but
the angles felt fresh and like...
Yeah, but follow an independent then, you know?
I do as well, sure. Like, look at OTT. I love that because you get your like...
Monthly,
it might be 2 nights back to back over a month. And then like the stories are told organically through that. Like, I would say this as well to people, like, if you're like disillusioned with like WWE or AEW ran, follow an indie for a while that do monthly shows or like, you know, maybe to do weekend shots once a month. I guarantee you, yes, the wrestling mightn't be as whatever, but you will instantly fall back in love with wrestling. Like, since I really started following OTT, because it's our local indie. You know, if we were living in New York, it'd be like, or Philadelphia or wherever, it'd be like us having ECW or Ring of Honor down the road, you know what I mean? But following it the way they do it, it's not weekly TV, it's not confined to that. They don't have to get all these guys on the card every week to progress all these storylines. The things can like happen naturally and organically, and like they don't have to like feel like, oh, right, we need to cut an angle for this feud to build to the next pay-per-view. It's just because we've been in like this weekly wrestling TV bubble since 1994. You know what I mean? We're 30 years into that. Like, we're really at a kind of a stage where there's just a lack of ideas and freshness to it. And it's become formulaic. And yeah, that's my hot take. Contrived. Contrived is a great word.
No, I get your point.
And maybe
also, maybe selfishly, I'd be lost without it. So.
Yeah, also.
Then again, I don't watch it weekly anymore.
Yeah, like I'm
tuning in and out of it because
I'm back watching AEW weekly, like,
yeah,
because it's good.
But like
before that, I kind of, you know, I dipped in and out of AEW weekly, but I'd still be excited for the pay-per-view.
You still love wrestling?
Yeah, like I was saying, like getting into some indie stuff has really, and like going back and watching older stuff has really reinvigorated.
Like, actually, wrestling for me has just fucking been a different level. Like, so many.
Yeah, like, you were in the fucking
throes of it.
Like yeah.
Thinking of it, like it's
been hard for me because obviously,
and that's why I think I like focusing more on the storyline aspect of it, because like an actual, as a wrestler point of view, it's so fucking hard
to just be competent is exceptionally hard.
Oh man,
yeah, that's why, like, you know, we like I was saying, we see on TV the best of the best every week. The guys that like have worked, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have worked for a long time to get there, so they're really polished. And sometimes, you know, if that's all you've watched for most of your life, and then you go and watch like local indie stuff, they mightn't seem so polished, but also like you're still going to see a lot of great stuff because there is so many people on the indies that are TV ready.
Yeah, but you're looking at like the next generation of people that are going to be on the TV.
Exactly in 3 to 5 to 7 years. Some of them.
Final take from me.
Yeah,
Brock Lesnar was the correct person to defeat the streak.
I agree.
And I'm only basing this in hindsight because
I didn't think so at the time.
Yeah, at the time either. But considering the amount of mileage that they got out of the character of Brock Lesnar, the people that he's put over since then.
Like you two as well, right? On top of that, they brought Brock had come back from UFC, and what happened? He fucking lost. Got beaten by Triple H and Cena early doors. People forget that he needed a bit of rehabbing around the time he took the streak. And the streak instantly rehabbed him, and then he went on to be the main event dominant force for 10 years.
Fucking no time, or like just dominated Cena.
Dominated Cena.
15 suplexes.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, went on to be the dominant force and
felt huge at the top of the card.
Yeah.
When and I know again he was like, you know what we were saying about Roman Reigns disappearing for large periods of time?
Yeah.
When Brock disappeared and came back, it actually felt huge compared to when Roman. It felt like the final boss was there. Like I always go back, I've mentioned it on this podcast, I don't know how many times, but when we finally had that thing of Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar facing off with each other, because Brock had been in and out, and Joe was starting to kind of run amok a bit, and then the daddy's home, but then Samoa Joe chokes him out. And I could not wait. It was at a pay-per-view called Great Balls of Fire, the worst name in the history of wrestling pay-per-views, and I was still like, I'm going to stay up and watch Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar on Great Balls of Fire. Brock felt huge, and so he was right there.
And he's had some good matches with like AJ. He had a match with Finn. He had
a great match with Finn. He had with Daniel. He had a tremendous match with Daniel Bryan. A tremendous match with AJ.
Great run with Taker. I would feel.
I wasn't a huge fan of that.
He had some good matches with Reigns. To be fair.
Some good, some bad. They were kind of hit and miss, but some of them were great. Like
so matches with the likes of Ambrose and Rollins, and
the Ambrose ones never clicked.
I like this triple threat. I think it was Kane, Rollins, and him at Royal Rumble.
Yeah, like I've said this about Rollins before, and you know I'm not a big Rollins fan, but I do think Rollins as a triple threat wrestler is almost unmatched. Like you think, like if you look at the list of great triple threat matches he's had, there's shitloads. Like. He's great in that setting, I think. And, you know, obviously, that was a 31 main event. Rollins, steal of the century.
Yeah.
Heist of the century. Like, that was fantastic. I know they went back to Brock a lot, and maybe it overstayed its welcome a little bit. But even the Cody matches were good there last year.
I enjoyed them, they got a lot of mileage out of that. Say, if you had to put it on... If you had to wait a year and give it to Bray, I don't think they had the belief in the character of what many fans was. If you had to give it to Reigns, everyone would have shit all over it.
Yeah.
It had to be a heel, I think, that defeated it because Taker was so over at the time. Anyone else would have felt forced to manufacture it. So
it's just the thing about that as well. I think one of the reasons why is that the match didn't deliver because Taker got the concussion.
That's why a lot of people are annoyed.
So I think like the fact that when the streak went, it went because
But that adds to it, I think.
I know, yeah. Like whatever I say about me saying that the Michaels matches were overrated, that they're not, they were still great matches, and they had like a real tension to them. And so did the two Triple H ones that followed. Although those matches were terribly overindulgent, but they still had a real tension because a lot of people thought Triple H was basically going to book himself to beat the streak, and he didn't. And then he had Punk after that. There was a tension to that one.
I didn't feel Punk could do it.
I didn't think he'd do it.
It was the right decision because you know, he left.
Like the week later.
No, it was
a year later, was it?
Yeah, nearly a year later.
Yeah.
Royal Rumble 2014 he left.
Oh, yeah. And so, that was right. But, like, there had been real tension there for a while in the Michaels matches and the Triple H matches, and I didn't think Punk was going to do it, but there was a lot of people online at the time who thought Punk was going to do it. And he didn't. And a lot of those, like, you know, people considered some of them to be great matches. Do you agree with me on the two Triple H ones?
I remember going, oh my, like when
there was tension
during the match.
Tension in the air.
I remember not particularly like loving the matches. So
I just thought they were a bit overindulgent.
Yeah. Any more hot takes before we finish up?
I have one hot take, and that is...
Is your Bray Wyatt is overrated?
No, that's Dumps.
That's Dumphy.
Yeah. He is.
He's such a heel. Who? Dumphy?
Dumphy's such a heel, but also
Bray,
Bray Wyatt's
why do you think
overrated.
Bray's overrated? You're hurting my feelings now.
Sorry, yeah, I know you liked him. I wasn't going to bring it up, and then he brought it up. I would say Bray Wyatt is overrated because maybe it's not his fault. He wasn't great in the ring, but
go look at. There's only one Bray Wyatt on this channel right now. It's my documentary. That goes to
that's
show
not overrated.
Why Bray never got to reach his true potential.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think he had chances, and he's just his character again, a little bit like the Undertaker, kind of got in his way a little bit. And Dunphy also says a lot of stuff that we've already said. And my other take is that Dunphy's an idiot. I don't think that's a hot take.
No, that's not a hot take. Dunphy's lovely actually. Kieran's lovely. Tate's
we had a huge argument there today about whose fault the CM Punk stuff in AEW was.
Privately?
Yeah. Went on half the day.
It was Young Bucks.
It was CM Punk.
It was Young Bucks. Anyway, this has been the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show. I've been the big beefy boy, Shaz Beef. This has been my fellow old buck in Morro.
Clickbait me, baby.
Yeah, he's getting clickbait. Don't fuck out. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Please, I suppose. Share it around.
Yeah, could you like it actually? I think that really helps if you press the thumbs up button on the YouTube video.
Yeah, we don't put a lot of thought into like saying
promoting
that.
ourselves.
We say it at the end as a throwaway, but if you've managed to stay, leave a comment on it.
Yeah, that's massive too.
That's great. Ron, the analyst, he's always doing it.
Yeah.
And he's a good dude. Even on Spotify, maybe that works.
I think you can comment on individual episodes of Spotify now.
I only see him like 5 weeks later. But
yeah, I'd love if more people watched our show.
Our show?
Yeah.
Of course.
Be nice, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think we made like 28 cents from a podcast before, which is great.
No, we made a tenner off on them.
That was the...
That was a short.
That was a... No, the short. One of the shorts made €68.
Yeah, true. And another one made a tenner though. Video.
That was the Goldust and Roddy Piper video. So
yeah, no, most of our podcasts make about 80 cents.
Yeah. Go buy some merch if you want. I'm looking at getting a home set up, so I might get a loan for that. Unless y'all buy merch, you know what I'm saying?
Buy loads of merch.
You buy some fucking merch.
Oh, shit.
This is Dunphy's hat. He's still wearing Dunphy's hat after calling him an idiot in his own hat. Glorious. This has been the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show. Oosh.